So, in the last video we made the leg and the arm for the Hello Kitty. Today we're going to make the head. Before I want to start working on the head, I do want to add an edge loop right around here because we always like to work symmetrically, and having our geometry symmetrical is very important. It makes things a lot easier. So for the head, normally you would use something like a cube, but we might actually be able to get away with a sphere for this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to create a polygon sphere. And I'm definitely going to want to lower the amount of geometry I have right now. So let's give it, let's say 12 by 12 and see how that works. That actually should hopefully work. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to look at this from my front view. And what I'm going to do is actually, before I do anything with this sphere, is I want to rotate this about 90 degrees. And then I'm going to shape it out to the head. So all I'm doing is using the scale tool. I'm going to start with the y-axis scale since I rotated around, and the x-axis to go bring it up like this, and we want just that general shape. So that looks pretty good like that. And now I can start modifying this bottom portion to shape it out a little bit better. And like I said, I'm going to do everything I want symmetrically. So whatever I'm doing to one side right here, I'm going to actually be doing it to the other side right here. So in this case, I'm just going to bring those down. I'm going to take these and these down. And normally this other side is not going to really matter too much, but it just makes things easier when it comes to understanding how I'm creating this object. So that looks pretty good. The head looks good. Everything looks pretty good. So now that we did it from the front view, we're going to do the exact same thing from the side. So I'm just going to go in. I'm going to use the z-axis scale and just kind of like shape this out a bit more. Bring it on back a bit. And then do the same process as I did it in the beginning to this. So I'm going to bring this out like that. Bring this part out like that. That looks pretty good. Let me bring this part in a little bit. And we're not going to worry too much about that. So we now have the general head shape, and we need to create a hole in it to attach to the body. So I'm going to bring this up, and we're going to hope that we have the right amount of geometry on the bottom. So let's take a look. So this is where things get a little bit more complicated because it is a lot more geometry you're working with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start counting now. So I've got 2, so I'm counting the amount of edges I have. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22. So I need a 22-sided hole on, on this spot on the head. So now I'm going to do that. I'm going to look at the bottom. Let's take a look and see what we got going on. I've got, doesn't look like I'm going to have enough, but let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, which means this is going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I've got 16 sides here, and I need 20. So I'm going to take another look at this and see where I should add geometry to make this attach a lot better. So what I'm going to do is, if I have 16, if I insert an edge loop right here, for example, it's going to add an edge loop here and then on the other side. So that means I now have 18, and this should give me 20. Okay? Because I now have this one face was split into 2. So I've got 2 here, and then it means I would also have 2 here since it's going all the way around. So let's get rid of some of these faces. So I'm going to get rid of you. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I need these out of there too. These are going to be hopefully enough geometry for me to attach the head to the body. So I'm going to do the same process as before. Just a little bit. Mesh, combine. And now let's get to some appending. So I'm just going to do the exact same process. I'm going to start in the middle so it's a lot easier for me to see where this is going. And we're just going to do the exact same thing. So one side directly to the other. And I'm pressing G to restart the process. And once it's finished, I will move this head. So it doesn't look like I'm attaching it too well right now. So we're going to have to hope for the best that this looks good. Otherwise, I could always do it again. But I think I should be okay with this. We won't know until we get to the end. No. Definitely not working yet. So I definitely counted wrong somewhere. So we're going to go with it and see where we could kind of fix things up. So I'm just making my way around, and the front looks good, but the back, or the side going into the back looks pretty bad. So all I'm doing right now is just kind of finishing it, just so I could see where I could fix it. So from this side, it looks like it's doing really well, but it doesn't look good from that other side. So let's see what happened. So this whole side came out really nice, but this one did not at all. So it means I must have counted wrong somewhere. So I'm going to take a look at my model and see what we could change to fix this up a bit. So in this case, I know I want to delete this face. And I'm going to also delete, oops, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm kind of using my arm as a bit of a guide on where I'm attaching things. So I'm just going to continue attaching it from the back, and then once we get to that arm, we'll actually be able to see where we could fix it. And this happens every once in a while. It really depends on how you're modeling your character. So now we can see that the arm is what's causing the problem, because I don't have enough geometry on the other side, or on this side of the head. But that's okay, it's an easy enough fix. I could just insert an edge loop here, and we should be in good shape. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to insert an edge loop right about here, and right about here. So now I can append this to here, and this will go to here. This one will go to here, and I'm just going to go across that way. So now our head is attached. We just got to lower it. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did in the last video, where I selected a series of these vertices and lowered them down. So I'm going to take that and bring them on down to where it should be attaching to the head. So right about there. That looks great. So the next thing we're going to work on is the eyes and the nose. So for the eyes, I'm going to do a pretty similar process where I'll insert edge loops and box out where the eye is. And we could either attach a sphere to it, or we could just kind of make it into the shape. So maybe we'll start with the nose, because the nose is right down the middle, and we already got it lined up. So all I'm doing is I'm adding edge loops to kind of box in where I want the nose to be. I'm going to do the same with the eyes, just kind of get it out of the way. So all I'm doing is just adding geometry as I need to box in those areas. So now that I've got this eye set up and this nose set up, I'm going to ignore the right side of Hello Kitty, or the left side of the screen, because we're going to do the whole other side later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to look at this from all my different views at once, just so it's easier for me to see. I'm going to find the faces where the nose is. So that's those right there. And I'm just going to extrude them outwards a little bit. And that looks pretty good like that. I'm not going to go too far. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the vertices on the corners right here. I'm going to move them inwards a little bit like that and scale them down inwards a little bit like that. So it gives a little roundness to my nose. I'm going to end up doing the exact same thing to the eyes. So let me go in, select all these faces for the eye. I'm going to double check just to see how it is positioned. That looks pretty good. Yeah. It doesn't look like it's matching up with the front view, but I mean from the side view, but it will on the front. And that's the one we're focusing on. So we'll do the same thing. I'm just going to bring it out a little bit. And let me just zoom in on this so you can see it better. I'm going to take each one of these vertices on the corners, and I'm just going to use the scale tool to kind of bring them in this way, bring them down that way, just to give a little bit more roundness to our eye. And we can always fix this up later as we need, but this looks like it's shaping out pretty well for now. It might not look it, but it is pretty good. As for the whiskers, let's see. We might have geometry already ready for the whiskers. Not really. We're probably going to ignore the whiskers for this project then, just because they kind of look like they're painted on. But we will create the ear. So the ear is a pretty simple process. I'm just going to kind of find where the ear is attaching to the head. And I'm just using it from the front view just as a guide of where it is. So it's right there. And from the side view, it's pretty much there too. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the faces where the ear is kind of coming out. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to work with extrusion. So I'm going to show it from the front view. So I'm just going to hit Control or Command E to do an extrusion. I'm going to bring it up all the way. Then I'm going to use the X-axis scale to scale it inwards. Actually, let's see what the front... No, that's not going to work. We're going to use this scale. No, I could probably get away with it the other way. So we'll scale this inward like that. And we're just going to move it. And we can work with our own scale tools. And we're just going to scale it and shape it to the ear. So in this case, it looks pretty good. I want to work on this area a little bit more. So I'm just going to bring that and kind of shape these vertices out so that it lines up better with the ear. So all I'm doing is just kind of bringing them in nicely and working them into the shape of the ear. Just like this. So got that going, and let's take a look at it from this view. So it looks pretty good from the front view. Not so great from the side because it's really thick there. So I'm just going to select these vertices. I'm going to scale them inwards like that. I'm going to bring them forward a bit. Now for the actual ear, they don't really show it here, but normally you would have an indent in your ear. So I'm just going to show and then I'm going to undo it just so you have it for reference. And that's just going to be an extrusion that goes inwards and scales inwards like that a little bit more. And that would be how you'd create that indent in the ear. But for Hello Kitty, we don't really have something like that. So that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move this a little bit more forward. And that's pretty much all we need to do for the head. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to create the bow and the tail and maybe that little star button piece. So yeah, see you there.